your shot.
Everybody set?
Yes, sir.
Okay, buenas noches. My name is Tony Lamareda, the Director for the Department of Corrections. Thank you for attending today's press conference. Regarding the status of the investigation of the assault on detainee Justin Meno, the detainee is still in custody with the Department of Corrections on charges of robbery, assault, guilt established by complicity, and warrant of arrest. The detainee also has a parole detainer with the Department of Corrections until July 11th, 2019. The detainee remains in stable condition at the Guam Memorial Hospital. A thorough internal affairs administrative investigation by the Department of Corrections to see if standard operating procedures and protocols were violated has been conducted, and over 20 individuals were interviewed. After extensive review of all findings, 4 corrections officers will be served a notice of proposed adverse action. The officers will have 10 days to respond to those charges. A concurrent criminal investigation is being conducted by the Guam Police Department, CID. We will keep the public informed as information becomes available. Any questions?
So these 4 officers, what type of adverse action will be served on?
You know, we can't say because they are proposed. By law, the officers have 10 days to respond. And then at that point, we make a decision to issue or serve a final adverse action or not.
Was one of those?
Go ahead.
Was one of those officers the officer who was assaulted earlier this week?
I can't give out any names at this time because until we actually issue the final adverse action.
No names. Just is he the same officer who was assaulted earlier in the week?
No.
Are these officers senior officers or kind of?
It varies. It varies. There are some that are senior and some that are not as senior. Again, because we have to respect the civil service protection rights of the employee. We can't really divulge a lot of information in regards to details to the actual investigation and to the charges.
These 4 officers who are going to be served with proposed adverse actions, is it safe to say that they assaulted Justin Meno?
At this time, again, the criminal side of the investigation is being done by GPD. Our end of the investigation is purely administrative in regards to following protocols and standard operating procedures. So if there are any criminal charges, it would be the Guam Police Department to file those charges.
Did the investigation reveal whether any of the population that was at Post 6 that day, they were involved in the assault?
Okay, again, because that's the criminal side, it would be the Guam Police Department that would respond to those questions.
Were those 4 corrections officers assigned to Post 6 on the day of this assault?
And yes, administratively and physically, yes.
Can you say whether they were in the area of the yard when the attack occurred?
I don't want to get too. Again, these employees do have the right to appeal, and I don't want to affect the outcome of the cases if they do go before the Civil Service Commission.
How's the security posture been since the attack since that assault happened with Justin Meno up to today?
Yeah, security, we've obviously put more security. We have the special operations, the response team in place. We, as normal procedure, we're maintaining pretty much the same protocols. Again, we have asked all officers in charge and platoon leaders to make their personnel aware of the SOPs and to follow procedures as stated.
As the director, what is your response then to this investigation revealing that 4 of your own had to be served with proposed adverse action?
Well, you know, it's sad, obviously. I mean, we hold our officers to the highest regard. All of them have sworn to uphold the laws of Guam and also to protect the public and the individuals here at DOC. So, you know, the officers here at the Department of Corrections, regardless of what is happening today, the officers at the Department of Corrections stand proud and work diligently every day to ensure the protection of everyone.
I apologize, I didn't quite catch the answer you had earlier about the ranks. Are any of those 4 officers any of the new hires? I know you guys just hired new COs.
It varies. You know, I don't want to start giving information and then, you know, everyone can piece it together and then so it varies. Their experience and longevity within DOC varies.
Do you have an update on the investigation into Joshua James Meno?
No, that is ongoing. That just happened this week, so that's still ongoing.
Okay, but was there any involvement, the officer who was assaulted, did he have any kind of involvement in the Justin Meno case at all?
No.
None whatsoever.
What do you say to, well, we heard that when police arrived to the Justin Meno scene, that there was signs of evidence tampering, possible blood had been washed from the scene. Is that accurate? Is that true?
Again, you know, that's criminal. You know, we're waiting for GPD to, to come out and conclude their investigation. Again, ours is strictly administrative.
Where is Joshua Meno now? Will he be placed in Max because of what happened?
Where's Josh?
No, Joshua Meno is still at the same housing unit, which is post to.
Because he was removed for safety after the.
That's correct. He was immediately removed. Joshua Meno was immediately removed after the incident of his brother Justin Meno.
He was taken to post 2.
That's correct.
So he's still there until now.
That's correct.
These officers, have they been placed on administrative leave?
Again, because it's proposed until the final adverse action is served, if even served. Again, like I said, these officers have 10 days to respond to the charges. If adverse actions are served, then we'll look at and see if administrative action is the appropriate action to take.
10 days from today?
Yes, 10 days.
Oh, so they're not on leave.
No.
So they'll remain on the job from
Yes.
even after they're served with the adverse action.
With the proposed.
Adverse action. The Max 6 on that particular day, how many COs were there that day, other than the 4?
Actually, we can't discuss the investigation in itself of how many staff were on duty and how many inmates were out and so forth, and that's because that entitles the whole entire investigation. Until this is complete with the proposed and the final, and then we'll be able to release something else after that.
Has anything changed procedure-wise with this happening? I know some lawyers have brought it up to judges before that there was a man who was severely injured in Max Security, and so they kind of are weary of having their clients move to Max Security. Has anything changed from the DOC side administratively?
And again, we have standard operating procedures in place and protocols in place, and that's why what we're looking at with this investigation, because if all protocols and procedures were followed, this situation should not have happened.
So did anything change since just?
Well, we've augmented with special operations, but other than that, we still have the same number of officers that we normally have on that books.
Have y'all,
Go ahead.
have y'all spoken to the family members yet since coming up with concluding your investigation?
No, we have not. And again, primarily because we want to talk with them when the final adverse action, if that happens, then we will notify. Because again, these are all proposed adverse actions.
10 days is when we'll know whether
10
that's.
days.
So they'll respond in 10 days to the proposed.
Yeah, the 4 officers have, by law, 10 days to respond to the charges.
They would respond to you, not to
me.
to you, and then from there you decide
And
whether
then
or
from
not
there, a decision will be made by me.
on whether or not.
Not on the 10th day now.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yes, 10 days.
How many
the day
days after the 10th will you?
Again, I would have to look at all the evidence presented before me, and then I'll make that decision.
Okay, and then you would serve a final if it comes
Right.
to that, a final.
If it comes to the point of serving a final adverse action, that's when it will be done.
Okay.
I'm sure you all are also corresponding with Guam Police Department as they finish out their criminal investigation. Have they said how close they are to completing?
No, but we are still working with the criminal investigation division at this point.
Last press conference, you mentioned there might have been a suspect.
Yeah, again, as I stated earlier, this is primarily administrative. Any suspects to those who actually committed the crime will be the Guam Police Department's investigation.
Are you submitting any of your findings to GPA?
No. Understand the criminal investigation and internal investigations are two different entire investigations. They cannot be mixed together.
Do you know if those 4 corrections officers are also being investigated by the Guam Police Department?
I do
Or their
believe
CID?
I do believe some of the correction officers and some of the staff that were also involved in our investigation have been called by the criminal investigation division.
Okay. Final comments?
Any other questions? No. Again, as I stated earlier, we take this very seriously. I know there have been individuals out there in the community who have said that it's taking us a while to come up with conclude the investigation. But you have to take in consideration that there were, as I said, over 20 witnesses that had to be interviewed, or 20 individuals that had to be interviewed. And so we wanted to make sure that before we issued any kind of action, we had all our evidence in place before we took any kind of action. So we thank the community for their patience, but we take matters like this very seriously here in DOC.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you guys can exit from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry, Leslie.
Oh, no problem. They can blame you.
Yes, I'm sorry guys. I didn't mean to hold you guys up.
Already.
Right?
Already.
You're blaming her already?
You know it's going to be dramatic.
All right, so we heard there just moments ago the Department of Corrections leadership announcing what they can so far when it comes to the internal affairs investigation, that administrative part of that investigation involving detainee Justin Meno, who in March we told you he was assaulted over back here at the Department of Corrections Post 6 Max unit. And so here's some of the details real quick that Tony Lamarena, the director, had mentioned in that press conference. He pretty much said that they've conducted 20 plus interviews that includes the population and the officers that were working that day, and from that investigation, through their internal affairs investigation, they've concluded that 4 corrections officers will be served a notice of proposed adverse action. What that adverse action is, he is not saying at this time, as it is, of course, he said proposed adverse action. According to the rules now, those 4 corrections officers will be given 10 days time from starting today to respond to that proposed adverse action, whatever that may be, and from there will may be placed on administrative leave, may not be. It's still a lot of unanswered questions, as of course this again is just proposed adverse action that the Department of Corrections leadership confirms could be placed on 4 of the corrections officers that had been working the day, that end of March incident when Justin Meno was found badly beaten in the Post 6 Max security, the special housing units yard area. And so earlier we heard that of course that internal affairs investigation, they have to look into the standard operating procedures and whether any of that SOPs had been violated at the time of the assault. Of course, the criminal investigation involving the Guam Police Department, that of course is ongoing. We heard from the Department of Corrections here moments ago that they are 2 separate investigations, and so that criminal investigation will determine who was involved and who was involved in badly beating Justin Meno, which pretty much left him in the hospital. The Department of Corrections Director Tony Lamarena confirming that he remains stable at the Guam Memorial Hospital today. But again, 4 corrections officers will be served proposed adverse action, and will have 10 days to respond from there. From there, the department will decide what to do to act from moving forward. But of course, we will keep you posted and give you the very latest tonight on KUM News Primetime. For now, for Guam's News Network, Wahoo Scenic Delgado.